Hi, I'm Lionbunny and I'm a charcoal artist. In this video, I practice anatomy. Due to my lack of anatomy skills, I was in an art block, and it made me realize that I had to go back to the basics. Also, I want to zoom out a little bit and share the structure from my practice. There will be 2 general poses and a challenge at the end. Each of them will have different stages, varying in difficulty before entering the main challenge. So I haven't practiced anatomy in a few months, so to say that my first attempt was less than stellar is an understatement. You can see the uncertainty and hesitance in my strokes and a lot of chicken scratching. With the first few attempts, I wanted to see how much I even remembered, because as I said earlier, I haven't even done anatomy studies in months, so what I remember is very few. Because of this, I did what anyone else would do and then just head over to YouTube. I watched a quick tutorial from this SamDoesArts video, and I applied his method of drawing bodies through the whole thing. And I know this video is titled or something like how I study anatomy or something like that. I am using someone else's method, which is like, I don't know if that's clickbait, but I just want to share the process about how I improved my anatomy from then till now, because at this point in the recording, I felt like a beginner again because I had to learn from the basics. After 4 attempts, the 5th one actually turned out like this. And it's not exactly the best thing in the world, but I think it is the point that made me realize that I have in fact stepped up a bit from my very first attempt. And this is the first step to me being more comfortable with this drawing method. Also, for each of the pages in the beginning, I made some notes here and there about what I like and don't like. I used blue pen as a solid outline for the rest of the body. I actually don't know why I did this in hindsight, so I don't know why I used blue pen, but oh well. And also the red pen are for annotations and some corrections to keep in mind. On this page, next to my 5th attempt, I wrote down some of the stuff I learned from Sam's video. It's not much, it's just some basic measurements and also apologies for my bad handwriting. Next up is phase 2, which are the more intermediate poses, and this is where the dots really started to click for me because I got into more of a flow and rhythm. When I was growing up, I mainly actually had the box method, and while some of my high school teachers and other tutors that I had did have other methods of drawing full bodies, I really forgot them over time, and for one note I just put a question mark. I don't know, I just think that's a bit funny. And at one point on this page I actually drew on a much more smaller scale because I was looking back and then I realized that I kept trying to fill the whole page for some reason. When I look at other artists' sketchbooks, they draw in a more smaller scale, so I attempted that myself and it was actually very helpful. I guess it made me more comfortable, or maybe it's a change in mindset, or the smaller scale just helps for some reason. Yeah, I felt like that was significant to point out. Phase 3 was the next day, and because it's the next day, you can see my first attempt was very rusty as I was doing this pose, but I quickly got back into a rhythm after the first try. By this point, I really felt my confidence growing, and it has grown enough that I started to add skin, faces, clothes, accessories. Watching back the recording, I can see less hesitance in my lines, and I'm not really afraid to erase my mistakes anymore. Also, if you're curious, I'll have a breakdown explanation of my process of how I draw bodies now later on. Okay, hello, voiceover Lionbunny here. I'm editing right now and I literally just realized I did not include the rest of the sitting poses and I don't know why, so apologies for that. I realized it mid-edit and then I was like, damn it. Here is a quick video of the rest of the sitting poses that I did, and I actually really like them. I think my favorite is the last one. Ironically, that is the one I struggled with the most because if you know me, I hate side profiles. I struggle with them so much. Here is a really short 45-second little video of me doing the rest because the video is already 10 minutes in editing and I don't want to make it longer than that. So yeah. Also, sorry for my voice being so monotone in the recording. I genuinely don't know why I sound so tired. Also, here is each drawing that I did of the poses for the exercise. And without further ado, next up is the main challenge. I kept looking at many photographs and different poses, different angles. I don't know why, but nothing really called out to me that much until I saw this older pin that I had on my references board. And it is this specific statue. I can't pronounce that name. I went with this one because I felt like it had a way more expressive pose. So this is the part of the video where I explain the steps that I follow. First is the circle of the head, representing the skull, and then the line of symmetry. Second is the line of movement, which represents the spine and then also to capture the curve of the pose. Next is the shoulder line and hip line. These two are really important for understanding the body's movement as well. With poses, they often correspond with one another, and also these two are around the same length because they are pretty much the widest parts of our body. Next is the shape of the ribs, like an egg as Sam calls it in the video. I personally like to make it a bit more 3D by connecting the bottom area to visualize it being hollow. I put the top of the ribs around the shoulder line but with some space for the collarbone, and after the egg I draw a line down the middle of the ribs to represent the curve. For the arms, I draw them like stick as per the tutorial, but then I add a circle, diamond, or loose oval to represent the elbow, and then continue on to the hand. I would measure with my eyes to make sure that the length of the arms and the size of the hand is accurate. Of course, eye measurements are not always going to be 100% perfect. As for the pelvis, it is like a squished egg. I put circles at each end of the hip line to represent the hip bones. Also, I do a curved line around the pelvis like this to show where the muscle of the thigh starts and separates from the bone. And following the measurements of like each third and all of that, I draw the thigh line first, the knee circle, the calf line, the ankle circle, and then the foot itself. Then I do the outline shapes of the muscle thigh, calves, and arms. I'm not an expert on muscle anatomy, so I just look at the reference the best I can, analyze it, break it down, and if something doesn't look right, I always erase it and then change it. I do have some basic knowledge on muscle anatomy, nothing really major though. This step for me is basically just analyzing the reference the best I can and trying to make them look at least a bit similar. That sounds so bad to conclude it. At this point in the drawing challenge, this is where I was at, and then I asked my art teacher for some feedback, and he gave me some really good pointers. He said that the torso and everything else really needed to be longer, since he said the thigh of the reference is actually his entire torso. The torso in the drawing is way too short. He also said that the head is a bit too big for the body. The feet also look off. The elbow and the arm bending need improvement because in the drawing he seems like he's bending the arm behind him when in the reference he's actually bending the arm straight forward towards the side of his face, or neck rather. He also advised me to pay more attention to the movement and perspective of the shoulders, chest, pelvis, legs, the whole deal. I asked him if the width of the body was okay, and he actually said it was fine because I thought that it looked off, but he said that it looks okay. So after his advice, I kept it in mind, went home, and then worked on it for like an hour and a half or so. I worked a lot on the feet. I'm not sure why. I just made sure to make the legs longer. I can definitely see an improvement in some parts, but for some others, it looks straight up wrong. I did try and improve the bending arm, but I made it too big, and I'm not sure why I cannot scale it properly, but I will fix that. And then also for the chest, I realized for some reason I was making it as though his chest was looking downwards when it should have been arching up, but it looks like it was like arching down. I'm not sure why I made it like that. As for the suns, they actually look okay to me. I did work on the last one as well, and I think that one maybe has my favorite expression. And I did want to render it and all, but then a lot of duties and homework and other stuff came up, so it really hindered me from having that much time on my hands. But the point of this video is improving on my anatomy skills, because before this I couldn't even draw the legs and couldn't even draw basic full body anatomy poses. Because if you know my whole process, I basically kind of wing it, which is not ideal. I don't know why I stopped using construction lines before rendering. I think I just got lazy and then wanted to rush to the important part fast, and besides, I just did portraits for a year or so. I think having stages of each pose was actually really beneficial for me, and also I feel as though I really learned how to draw bodies now thanks to SamDoesArts. If I never really watched his tutorial, I don't think I would have gotten as far as I have. That sounds ridiculous. So yeah, thank you, Sam. I mean, well, my final drawing isn't perfect either. There is a part where one of the suns is cut from the edge of the page, which did really disappoint me, and I think I could have made the whole thing way smaller. I was already in too deep to really change that, and I was a bit lazy to erase the whole thing and redo it again. So here's the first attempt, and then here's the challenge. I think my confidence has really solidified itself. I was nervous going into it, but now I'm not that nervous about drawing full bodies anymore, so that has to speak for something in itself. But I would say going from that to this final drawing, I am slightly proud of myself. Don't worry, I will fix the final drawing. It is not necessarily completed yet because there's still a lot of things I need to fix, but because of time constraints and I have to get this video up somehow, I don't know if I'll show it in the video just yet, but maybe I will in a reel or a short. Anyways, thank you so much for watching my process if you made it this far, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!